House Martell of Dorn. Fierce, proud, and independent. They ruled their desert kingdom with a blend of elegance and strength, using diplomacy and warfare to keep the Iron Throne at bay. But in real history, there was a group of people just as proud, independent, and culturally rich: the Moors of medieval Spain. The Moors, like the Martells, blended North African, Arab, and Spanish influences to create a powerful, enduring kingdom. Today, we're comparing House Martell to the Moors of Spain, the ultimate battle of independence, culture, and resistance. From desert fortresses to royal courts, the Martells and the Moors both held their ground against powerful empires, forging their own path through history. The Kingdom of Dorn versus Al-Andalus. House Martell ruled over Dorn, a desert kingdom in the far south of Westeros, known for its rich culture, its fierce warriors, and its stubborn independence. Similarly, the Moors established Al-Andalus in southern Spain, a land where North African, Arab, and Spanish cultures mixed to create one of the most advanced societies in medieval Europe. Just as Dorn is known for its beauty, its architecture, and its diversity, Moorish Spain was a beacon of culture, science, and art. The Alhambra, the Grand Palace in Granada, was as stunning as any of the palaces in Westeros. Much like the Martell's water gardens, the Moors brought innovations in architecture, mathematics, and medicine, creating a kingdom that was both beautiful and intellectually rich, just like Dorn. But don't let the beauty fool you. The Martells and the Moors were warriors. They defended their lands fiercely against invaders and external threats. Their culture was one of both elegance and strength, where diplomacy was balanced with the readiness for battle. Fierce independence, Martell rebellions, and Moorish resistance. One of the most defining traits of both House Martell and the Moors was their fierce independence. In Game of Thrones, the Martells of Dorn were known for refusing to kneel to the Iron Throne. They remained independent for generations, even after Aegon's conquest, and only joined the Seven Kingdoms on their own terms. The Moors, too, were fiercely independent, establishing their own rule in Spain, separate from the Christian kingdoms of the north. The Martells fought back against every attempt to subjugate them. When the Targaryens tried to conquer Dorne, they faced brutal resistance from the Dornish people, who used their knowledge of the desert terrain to fight a guerrilla war against their would-be conquerors. Similarly, the Moors held out in Spain for centuries, resisting wave after wave of Christian crusades to reclaim the land. Dorne's harsh deserts and mountains gave the Martells an advantage against invaders, much like the rugged mountains and strategic cities of southern Spain helped the Moors fend off their enemies. For both the Martells and the Moors, their land was their greatest defense, a fortress of sand and stone that made them nearly untouchable. The power of diplomacy, marriage alliances, and treaties. The Martells didn't just rely on their military might, they were masters of diplomacy. In Westeros, House Martell forged alliances through marriage and treaties, ensuring that their independence was protected not just by swords, but by family ties. The marriage between Princess Elia Martell and Rhaegar Targaryen was one such example, designed to strengthen the bonds between Dorne and the Targaryens. The Moors, too, understood the power of diplomacy. Al-Andalus was known for its religious and cultural tolerance, where Muslims, Christians, and Jews coexisted. This allowed the Moors to form alliances with other kingdoms when it suited their interests. Marriage alliances were also a key diplomatic tool, just as they were in Dorne. By marrying into Christian royal families, the Moors ensured peace and cooperation when needed. Both the Martells and the Moors played the Game of Thrones through diplomacy, showing that strength wasn't just about warfare. It was about building bridges, securing alliances, and knowing when to make peace. Elite warriors, the Dornish spearmen and Moorish cavalry. When diplomacy failed, both the Martells and the Moors had elite warriors to fall back on. In Dorne, the spearmen were legendary, trained to fight in the heat of the desert, using speed and precision to overwhelm their enemies. These warriors were as fierce as they were agile, much like the Moors' famous cavalry. The Moors were known for their elite cavalry, warriors who could outmaneuver their enemies on horseback and strike with deadly precision. Just as the Dornish spearmen were trained to fight in the desert, the Moors used their knowledge of the terrain to devastating effect. Their cavalry was feared across Europe for its speed and ferocity, much like how the Dornish were feared for their ability to wage war in the harshest conditions. Whether on foot or horseback, the Dornish and the Moors were masters of desert warfare. Their soldiers weren't just fighters, they were strategists, using every advantage of their environment to protect their lands and people. The fall of the Moors and the last stand of Dorne. But even the most fiercely independent kingdoms can fall. In Westeros, House Martell's defiance lasted for generations, but they eventually faced defeat at the hands of the Iron Throne. For the Moors, the last stronghold of their kingdom, Granada, fell in 1492, marking the end of nearly 800 years of Moorish rule in Spain. The fall of the Moors was the result of centuries of warfare and crusades from Christian kingdoms, just as the fall of House Martell came after centuries of defiance. Despite their strength, their diplomacy, and their warriors, the tide of history eventually turned against them, but their legacy lived on. The Moors left an indelible mark on Spanish culture, architecture, and history, just as the Martells left their mark on Westeros. Their stories are ones of pride, strength, and resistance, kingdoms that refused to kneel until the very end. House Martell and the Moors, two kingdoms defined by their independence, their culture, and their refusal to bow to outside powers. What do you think? Did the Martells or the Moors leave the greater legacy? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more comparisons of **Game of Thrones** and real history. Thanks for watching.